And I gotta figure out which tab to close once it starts here. And then I gotta start the stream. And it says directing doopy-doo. And okay, so we're there. And let me go on to the stream. Good evening. It is Friday, November 19th. We are just a week away from Turkey Day, and it is the third Friday of the month, which of course means one thing. You're just in time for the next installment of Matinee Minutia, that show about film and television trivia.
Yep.
And tonight we're going to be discussing an early 80s drama. It's based upon a true story about therapist Lena Canada. And it's one of the earliest films of young up-and-coming Diane Lane, also starring Deborah Raffin and a bunch of other guests of talent. But please take your seats. The show is about to begin. Well, hello there, Mr. Smelly. How are you this fine evening?
How do? Happy week before Thanksgiving. I'm here, I'm queer, and I'm not going home. Or something like that.
Did they pardon the turkey there in Pickle Hollow?
Yeah. Yeah, they're all lesbian turkeys.
Oh, with the fresh helpings of the cheese too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, about this time almost last year, we had a guest from the Golden Coast, and I think he must have got a 2-for-1 deal on his fare there, because he is here with us again tonight. Please put your hands together for Mr. Matt Burlingame.
Oh, thank you. I was playing the dimes and I threw it and I got in the face and, well, I won a trip back here. I'm so happy. Hi.
Excellent.
Oh, well, it's Turkey Day just around the corner, and I talked a little bit about that in my latest episode, my show, Surely You Jest, but it was a little too last minute for us to plan a family get-together because, well, the world is still toxic, and some of us are catching up on our responsibilities, let's just say. But plans are on the horizon for the next big to-do, the holiday next month, and well, we'll see how that goes, because it'll be the first time in 2 years that I've gone out to the haystack.
Wow.
Oh, but I'm sure that you've got your usual full plate coming there with the responsibilities there, Mr. Smelly. Are you planning on cooking up a storm?
No, because of COVID, once again, I'm not. And my sister-in-law is going to host it. And there's just, see, I work at a place where every day I could catch this damn thing and bring it home. So it's very serious for me. I mean, I mask up, I do all the things you're supposed to do, but it's it's just too too chancy. So uh, no turkey fixins from me.
Understandable. My eldest sister is raising her grandkids, and since they can't be vaccinated yet, that's why they're not doing a family gathering, because it's just too risky right now for them.
Yeah.
So, well, it's the time of the year that we get together with loved ones and we celebrate the end of a season, because this, in the old days, used to be the end of the harvest season, the time that we celebrate the plenty, and it's just basically a time to be thankful for what we have. So, the program we'll be discussing tonight, Touched by Love, a film of 1980, is a story that involves a amount of being thankful. Matt, if you would do the honors, our showgirl, she's sitting it out tonight here because well, she wasn't feeling the weather. So could you give the listeners an intro for us?
Of course, but I do have to say that sending me a movie called Touched by Love, I was expecting something far different. However, so Lena is a young physical therapist who's just arrived to work at a remote and rural group home for differently abled children. Inspired by the beautiful setting, she is filled with hope for the kids that she's there to help. And she feels capable until one day when she meets Karen, a girl who's been to these places since she was born. Everyone tells Lena to be careful and not spend too much time with her. But does she listen to their warning? Does young Karen learn to trust her? Get out your record player and your blue suede shoes, because it's time for Touched by Love with Deborah Rapkin and Diane Lane. Hit it, boys.
What do you get when you take a dash of the silver screen? A pinch of golden oldies? And a smidgen of screaming. It's time for Matinee Minutia with your hosts DJ and Toppy.
Righty, so this was a movie. It actually got released in theaters, and when I saw it, it was on television, which it's easy to understand why I might have made the mistake of assuming it was a TV movie. I mean, there's plenty of television talent in this cast.
It has all the earmarks of a Hallmark Hall of Fame TV movie. If I had seen this, I would have at first absolutely said, "Oh, it's a made-for-TV movie," and the only thing that tips you off that perhaps it isn't are some of the credits, and also there's no commercial breaks.
Now, before we go too much further, I just want to take a moment to mention that this film is dedicated to my sister, who I sometimes call Betty. She survived cancer at 16, and I remember this as being one of her favorite films from her youth because, like the main character, she really went through the ringer at this stage of her life. So Touched by Love is a precious memory in her life. So I'm going to go ahead and play a trailer for this film. Now, a word of caution, this is a film from 1980, so some of the language is dated when it comes to people with different abilities.
On May 1st, 1949, Karen Brown entered the world in a way you pray all children never will, handicapped. Rejected by her natural mother, she grew up in a special home. But this was not a cruel place. One by one, they tried to reach her, and one by one, they failed. And painfully, they all gave up on a child who had given up on herself. Until one day, a remarkable young woman entered her life. Touched by Love. A true story of personal triumph.
Karen turned in on herself. She turned her back on the whole world as if she knew her heart was quite literally breaking. I'm afraid it's hopeless.
I'd like to give her a try.
I don't want you to get attached.
Are you saying I can't work with her, Dr. Bell? I mean, on my own time?
You believe in miracles, or hope for them. Well, I don't. I can't. Not in Karen's case.
I have to reach Karen.
Touched by Love.
Talk to me. Please, Doctor.
An unforgettable motion picture experience. The story of one girl's courage and the selfless dedication of a woman who truly cared.
That's funny.
They put on some hats and ties and so that they weren't mice at all. They were just pink rabbits, and he was just singing.
Together, they proved that miracles can happen.
You did it! You did it!
When you've been touched by love.
What are you thinking about? Music.
Now Karen dreams of kings, and in her mind, she's dancing.
I wonder what he's doing right now.
We can find out. We can write to him and ask him.
Touched by love, the story of the hardship,
Please let him answer.
the friendship,
Love you.
the victory.
I love you too.
The story of this girl, this woman, and the king of rock and roll.
Look what just came.
Touched by love, a true story of personal triumph.
And I just want to say before I forget that because that preview, you heard a lot of it, but the music score is by John Barry, who was a preeminent film scorer of his day. He did too many to count. I mean, really big movie scores. So.
Okay, so one of the things that we like to do when we discuss a program is we like to put your mind into what was going on in the world when that program premiered. So if you would do the honors, Matt, please tell us a little bit about the world in 1980.
Oh, well, I don't really remember too much of what was going on. I was just practically born. However, the comic strip Far Side began in newspapers, and President Carter approved a $1.5 billion bailout for Chrysler. Nothing for me. Voyage 1 probe confirmed the existence that there actually was a moon called Janus near Saturn. And also, the U.S. severed ties, diplomatic relations with Iran. The Pennsylvania lottery was rigged by 7 men, including the host of the drawing. Once again, nothing for me. The Department of Education begins operation, and the Empire Strikes Back is released. Also, Pac-Man, which is the best-selling arcade game of all time, is released. And that yummy Robert Redford makes his directorial debut with Ordinary People.
Our last episode, go out and watch it, matineeminutia.com.
That's true. And also, Andrew Lloyd Webber released the Phantom of the Opera debuts in the West End of London.
And he introduced us to his future fabulous ex-wife, Sarah Brightman, the one of the stars from our October episode about Repo, the Genetic Opera.
She's okay.
So, Toppy, tell us a little bit about the way back. Who came and went in 1980?
All right. Well, let's do births first. That's Zoe Deschanel. Did I pronounce that right? Deschanel.
It's like the perfume Deschanel.
Deschanel. Oh my goodness, I never would have gotten that. She was in the Elf movie. On TV, New Girl. Christina Ricci, she was in Addams Family. Who did she play? Wendy?
Wednesday, yes.
Wednesday. What did I say? Oh, Wendy. Yeah, Wednesday.
Have you eaten?
It was for short.
Yeah. Also, that kid that was in that smash hit holiday, I guess the biggest Thanksgiving Day weekend.
No.
Oh, that's right.
We just talked about that on Chubb's Gone Wild. That's why I know it actually wasn't. It was a Frozen 2, I believe.
Oh, that's right. That broke it. Actually, the only reason I said that is because I listened to that episode, but obviously I was not listening very well, or I forgot about.
I know how much you care about me now.
Chris Pine was born.
Oh, thank you.
And he was in Star Trek 09 and Wonder Woman. Steve McQueen was, wait a minute. Oh, here we are. Okay, Steve McQueen was not born in 1980, but he did pass away. And so did John Lennon in a that horrible horrible night in New York City. So there you go.
And as they say, everything old is new again, because Macaulay Culkin that you were just talking about in Home Alone, they are remaking Home Alone, and it is now on Disney Plus, and it's set in the UK. There's a British boy whose folks have left him at home while they're on their trip to Tokyo.
Yeah, and Macaulay's 41 now, and he's a fashion plate. Have you seen the photos?
I have not. I know he did commercials for Google last year, I think in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's making his little comeback now. Yeah. Imagine, see, tying into John Lennon. Imagine.
So, Touched by Love, the program we're discussing tonight, it was a film. And as I said, I was confused in my youth there. I thought it was a TV movie because that's where I caught it. Thanks to the folks at the Peacock there, NBC. They broadcast it on television in 82 after it had come out. But 1980 was a bang-up year for movies. Now, we also discussed 1980 in our last episode, coincidentally, Ordinary People. So just touching some highlights here. There were 116 films that came out that year, including The Empire Strikes Back. And in the top of the box office were Empire Strikes Back, 9 to 5, which is my personal favorite, and Stir Crazy with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. Now, Touched by Love was released in October of 1980. It didn't place in the top performers of that year. However, some of the other films that were also released in October of that year, they were at the bottom rung, but just to give you an idea of some of the things that were honorable mention, was a film called Gloria, which had Gina Rowlands and Buck Henry, and it was about a young boy's family killed by the mob, and their neighbor Gloria becomes his reluctant guardian. And she was in possession of a book that the gangsters wanted, and the pair go on the run in New York. Now, also an October release in 1980 was a film called Loving Couples. Now, this is something of intrigue for me now. It's going to go on one of my little obscure lists because it has Shirley MacLaine in it and James Coburn. Loving Couples. A wife is cheating her husband, and the husband is cheating her back with her lover's girlfriend. And the two cheating couples decide to go to a resort, but they unintentionally pick the same one, and hilarity ensues. I mean, they had me at Shirley MacLaine, okay?
There you go.
So we, the Marionette Theater is a celebrated venue. We have been host to many a splendid thing, vaudeville, and we even had Magic Acts. Now, in terms of films and television, we like to call the director of the film the magician. So, Matt, tell us a little bit about the director of Touched by Love, Mr. Gus Triconis.
Oh, well, first of all, he was born in New York City, and that explains a lot. He began his show business career as both an actor and a dancer in Broadway plays and movies, just like me. His most popular film role was as Indio in the magnificent musical classic West Side Story. Big Kitty, your brother. And that was in 1961, far before I was born. But Touched by Love was his 8th feature film, actually. He made his debut as a director in 1969 with that biker flick, Five the Hard Way. Again, I would watch that just from the title. But anyway, also in the early 80s, he began directing mostly for television, and he did a bunch of made-for-TV pictures and directed episodes with of TV shows like Baywatch and Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, which was like 1995, Quantum Leap, Baywatch Nights, Burke's Law, I don't remember that one, The Commish, Hunter, and Wise Guy, and The Flash. Only this was the 1990 Flash, not the current Flash.
Yeah, but I liked the 1990 Flash. I mean, Barry Allen was a little Metro in those days.
Now he's just confused. And The Twilight Zone. Remember that show? 1985? Not
never
the
saw
original
that.
one, but the second one. It was fun. Anyway, he also was married to screen megastar Goldie Hawn after she probably dumped that Kurt Russell.
I knew there was a reason I liked him.
Mhm. And outside of acting and directing, he's done oil paintings, but his most popular film was Take This Job and Shove It, which was the next release after Touched by Love. So he is just a powerhouse back in his day.
I remember watching Take This Job and Shove It on TBS because when Ted Turner decided to start his own channel, he loaded himself up on libraries of reruns from the 70s. And occasionally you'd get a movie like Take This Job and Shove It.
I just remember that song because my family was into country at the time. So I heard it over and over and over. And I'm just like, I don't like monkeys.
DJ, at this point, I'm going to ask that we pause because I just listened to our sound and we're all slightly speeded up.
Oh dear. I didn't take anything.
Yeah, it's like, well, DJ said you sound like a chipmunk, but I just listened and Matt was also kind of fast. So we may not be able to fix it, but just see if there's anything that might stand out.
Now the audio that they'll be hearing is off of the streaming server, so I'll just stop the broadcast on that. We'll stay on YouTube, but then I'll just restart the stream.
Okay.
Okay, I just stopped the stream, and I will go ahead and start.
Sometimes it hurts if you stop it midstream.
I hear that happens as you have a few more birthdays.
Yeah.
Kegel, I recommend Kegel.
I mean, I am celebrating my mid-decade birthday coming up here, so I had a little surprise in my notice from the DMV that I can't just renew my license by mail this year. I have to go and get the eye exam.
Oh, eye exam. Wait until they tell you that you need another kind of exam, girl.
Oh, turn your head and cough.
Oh, no, more like we're going to knock you out and give you a little winky wink.
You know, the president was doing that recently, or at least I hear he's about to.
Yes, and so we're going to have the very first female presidential power, at least until he wakes up.
Yeah. I hear that the last guy didn't want to undergo anesthesia because he didn't want his right-hand man to be in charge.
Well, I think that's probably why they just pretended, Oh, nothing happened. Nothing happened. He just went to the hospital for no reason.
And DJ, I think Aunt Tudor says that it sounded fine on YouTube. So whatever that tells you.
Alrighty. Well, we'll just continue the discussion and next.
Okay, so are we back? We streaming again?
Yes. So, continuing on the cast, we have the lead role, the therapist, Lena. Toppy, could you tell us about the lead actress in this film?
Oh, yes, of course. That's played by Deborah Raffin, who at first, when I saw her, I swear she looked like the guy's boyfriend in the last movie we did. No, right? I mean, she was the awkward teenager who was in the bowling scene. I thought that's who she was, but she's not. Deborah Raffin. And she did play Lena, the teacher trying to help the girl. She began acting in the early 70s. Touched by Love was her 8th feature film. And this is interesting. Deborah, with her husband, music producer Michael Vinner, founded Dove Books on Tape in 1985.
Wow.
And it was a successful audiobook business. And, really, I mean, before these podcasting services of books on, what do they call the big one?
Audible.
Yeah, Audible. Yeah, you used to get these doggone things on cassette tapes and such like that, and later on CDs. Anyways, it was a very successful business. They sold it in 1997. Just before doing Touched by Love, Deborah was in Hanging on a Star, a story of a struggling rock band that is trying to get back on the road to stardom. And there was also, I kind of like her credits because there's some zany things in here. She was also in a film called Satan's Cheerleaders, and she starred in Dance of the Dwarves with Peter Fonda in '83. In that one, she was an anthropologist who was searching for a scientist who was investigating reports of a tribe of reptile men.
Coming to Pickle Hollow soon.
Yeah. She often appeared on television, and you would have seen her in the TV short-lived TV series Foul Play, based on the movie, where she continued Goldie Hawn's character. Boy, I'd kind of like to have seen that. Anybody see that? No.
I'll have to look under a rock.
Yeah. In the 90s, Ref had a series of recurring appearances on Seventh Heaven. And her last role on TV was in The Secret Life of an American Teenager, where I suspect she did not play the teenager.
Neither did Molly Ringwald.
No, she played a doctor in that. And sadly, she passed away in 2012 of leukemia.
Oh.
And she was only 59.
So we're at about the halfway part in our program this evening. We're going to take a moment and entertain you with a short interview on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson with the young talent Diane Lane.
How come you kissed him and you didn't kiss me?
I don't have any reason for that, I'm sorry. He's just a very attractive man.
Right. Well, I suppose he is more the grandfatherly type and you feel comfortable. Too much sexual attraction going on between us and she didn't feel comfortable. Is that the correct title of the Rumblefish?
Rumblefish.
That's a strange title. Is it fair to ask you what that means?
Rumblefish is sort of a slang name for Siamese fighting fish, which is symbolic of a relationship that goes on in the film Matt Dillon and Mickey Rourke. It's the second film I did for Coppola. Yeah, I'm doing a third one now. As soon as I get done, I'm out.
You're a very busy young lady. Somebody told me you just graduated from high school.
Ring.
Is that true?
Got my ring. Got it in the mail, but I got it.
What do you mean? Can I see your high school? What high school is that?
It's called Quintana School for Young Professionals.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And you had to get it by mail because you couldn't be there, or what?
That's right. I've been out here. This is the 5-month anniversary date of the start of the film, Streets of Fire. That's what I'm doing.
You told me that backstage. You've been away for 5 months, which is rather long.
It's a long one. It's a long one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you about, can I guess your age? You got to be 17, 18, 19. A great
18.
guess, isn't it?
Good, yeah. Boy, you really like to narrow things down, don't you?
Well, you get out of high school, you're about that age.
18.
Yeah. Do you have a big blowout for your 18th birthday party?
I did my laundry, actually. That's what I did for my birthday. I had a big surprise birthday party thrown for me on my 16th, Sweet 16 Muckadoo deal. And it was a fiasco for me because I had to play hostess to a bunch of people I did not know. And it was like a burden, you know. I said, this one is going to be just another day in the life of. And I went out, I did my laundry. And
You must have started this business very young.
Yeah, I was just about 7. I was 6.
Are you the child of professional actors or actresses?
Am I the child of? Oh, I see what you mean. Wait, how many?
Well, no, I thought, I guess let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
Were your mother and father entertainers?
Well, my mother was
wonderful. Yeah.
I haven't used that one yet.
You can use parents if you want.
Parents?
Yeah.
Appropriate word. My mother was a Playmate of the Month, October 57. I'm very proud of her for that. It was at that time. I mean, it was a lot,
Did you realize it at that time when you were?
Well, I was not even an idea at that point.
Oh, I
Thank
see.
you very much.
Of course, I just established you're 18 and 57. Right.
She was only 19.
Would you do something like that?
No.
Why not?
Well, because you have to reveal quite a bit more at this point.
Right.
That's one good reason. There's many other good reasons why I would choose not to do that. I don't have to. I mean, Mom wanted to get a lot of exposure, and she did.
That's funny. I really liked the way she sounded there. She sounded pretty grounded.
Yeah.
Definitely wise beyond her years. And for a time, I was confused about the beginnings of her career because I could have sworn she was in Say Anything with John Cusack. But then I just realized that Diane was simply the name of his love interest in that film. So Diane Lane, she played Karen, who was the young teen in the group home in Touched by Love. And she was 13 when she was cast by director Roy Hill in his film in 79 called A Little Romance, starring opposite Sir Laurence Olivier. Now, the film only did so, but Olivier praised his young co-star, calling her the new Grace Kelly. Well, imagine starting your career off up on that pedestal.
Yeah.
And after her well-received debut, Diane found herself on magazine covers all over the world, including Time, which declared her the new young acting sensation.
Jeez.
Now, acclaimed director Francis Ford Coppola, as you might have heard mentioned there on the Tonight Show clip, he noted Diane's appeal and cast her in 2 youth-oriented films, one called Rumblefish in 83, and then The Outsiders, also in 83. These films have become cult classics and resulted in her getting a loyal fan base.
Stay gold, Pony Boy.
Diane Lane soon secured leading roles in 3 big-budget studio epics. She turned down the first, though, unfortunately. It was Splash, which was the launch of Daryl Hannah's career. And unfortunately, the other 2 films, well, they were box office bombs. Included Rock and Roll Fable, Streets of Fire in 84. It was supposed to be a summer release, but many found out it wasn't a huge success. And the massively troubled Coppola epic, The Cotton Club in 84, which co-starred Richard Gere and was a high-profile flop, unfortunately. She stayed away from the screen for the next 3 years. Now, there's a bit more to say about Miss Diane Lane. Basically, Tom Cruise wanted to get her in on his next big film when she was in The Outsiders. And that was going to be risky business, but she said, no, my dad would kill me if I tried to play a prostitute.
Oops.
Yeah. Then she also came close to being cast as Vivian Ward in Pretty Woman, but of course that in turn went to Julia Roberts instead. And then in 97, I remember this, she was cast opposite Wesley Snipes, and she played a Secret Service agent assigned to solve a murder at the White House in Murder in 1600.
I wasn't born yet.
Oh, God. And I saw that movie, and I'll be damned if I remember, but okay.
And now to date, she has 68 acting credits, which most recently, it's later years now, of course, she's appeared in 2 of the DC films as Martha Kent, which is Superman's human foster mom, and also had a run in Netflix's House of Cards, and she had a series of recurring appearances.
And did you see that she was married to Thanos?
I did not.
Yes. She's married to Thanos and Christopher Lambert.
Oh.
Do you remember him?
I don't.
It was the Highlander movies, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We do love ourselves a good kilt.
I got the calendar coming. Just saying.
So Matt, the actress who plays the doctor in the group home here, um, had just left a very popular TV series. In fact, I think this is her first film after, what was that show called?
I think it was The Waltons.
It
Yes.
was.
Yes.
And
She
we
was.
celebrated Thanksgiving the other year with a Waltons TV movie that was Mr. Smelly's pick. So Matt, tell us a little bit about Michael Learned, and Toppy, if you need to help out, feel free.
Well, she played Dr. Bell actually in this one, and she played a very businesslike doctor who warned that wonderful Lana, don't get involved, don't love the children, just keep your distance. But that is what you had to do, especially for someone who'd been in the business all that time anyway. So Michael Learned was born in 1939, and she was an Aries, but we'll forgive her.
I'm older than she was in this movie.
Oh my God.
Well, Tom's older than her in real. No, anyway, is an American. She's an American actress, of course, and she's known for playing Olivia Walton in the CBS dramatic series The Waltons, which ran from 72 to 81, and was a favorite of many of us podcasters. Many. But yes, and she played the role that was originally played by Toppy. Who was the one in the movie?
The stroke lady.
The one who I always say was so over the top.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm having a brain fart, Matt.
I forget what her name is.
Oh, damn it.
Anyway.
I'll let my fingers do the walking.
John Boy! Anyway, so Michael Learned, of course. Anyway, she won the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series, a record 3 times for the Waltons, 73, 74, and 76, and very well deserved.
Yeah.
And and a 4th time she won for The Nurse in 1982. But she was a very accomplished actress, and she just absolute powerhouse. But we will always know and love her for being Mama Walton.
Mama woman.
I think this might have been one of the first times that she played a doctor type. In fact, after her run on the Waltons, she was in a couple of hospital shows, and one of them had Brady Bunch actor Robert Reed in it. I think that was Nurse.
Yeah. They were in that. I remember watching it, but I remember very little about it. And I think it was critically acclaimed, but it did not get ratings. So it wasn't around for long.
And it looks like later on, possibly during the 90s, Michael Learned had a series of appearances on a couple of soap operas. So keeping that paycheck coming.
Yeah, and I did not know that until I was looking it up today. I have to think that must have happened because she must have been a big fan of soaps. I don't know, but she seemed to go out of her way to appear for many weeks, and 3 of them.
Anything you could get. Patricia Neal was who we were thinking of.
There we go.
Yes.
Stroke lady Patricia Neal.
She was a scary Mama Walton.
Yeah, she ruled the roost with a metal spoon.
The hell out of it. In one of the scenes, her head was going to spin around.
I love that take on it, Matt. I really do. Oh, my Lord.
So they were a couple of other members of the cast, but we won't go into too much detail, but they had celebrated careers, and they only were briefly on screen in this film and Touched by Love. One of the other therapists at Brown House, which was the name of the group home, was played by none other than John Amos, and many of you will recognize him as being the father on the first couple of seasons of Good Times.
And he played the adult Kunta Kinte in Roots. Well, a lot of other things.
Also, he had bit parts in Little House on the Prairie, and yeah, very, very popular actor back then.
And then the last honorable mention is a film star from perhaps my father's day of heyday going to the movies, Mary Wicks, who one of her first roles I saw on screen was starring in White Christmas with Bing Crosby. She was the lady at the front desk when he checked into his sergeant's establishment there, but she also later in her career would appear in both Sister Act movies, and sadly she passed away shortly after starring in the Little Women film with Winona Ryder and Susan Sarandon, and by that time she was legally blind.
Now, just so in case people haven't seen this movie, let's describe the character she was in Sister Act, because a lot of people have seen Sister Act. What can we say about? She has a distinctive voice. Mm-hmm. If you saw her face, you'd say, "Oh, that lady," because she's been in 50 million things. But what did she do in that movie? She was just...
Well, Sister Mary Lazarus was her character's name in Sister Act, and she was the original leader of the choir that Whoopi Goldberg's character replaced.
That's right. That's, if you remember the original... she was really insulted that Whoopi Goldberg was going to take over, and she gave her the baton and said, "Well, give it a try." And
the best part about that was that she explained that she had been a nun in Canada where they had cold floors, and she said those were nuns, bare feet, cold floors.
Oh my gosh. You know, I didn't see it in her credits, but I bet you anything she did a lot of radio.
Oh, I would
with that voice.
Oh, yeah, sure. Her first role, even though it was uncredited, was in 1934.
Yeah. She's been there.
And I find it interesting that as I read about Mary Wicks, one of the people that she worked with in the early days of her career was Miss Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were good friends apparently in real life. So let's talk about this movie.
Oh,
I'm just going to jump in by saying I thought you can get yourself into a lot of trouble playing people with disabilities, and but I thought that Diane Lane, well, given her age, I guess, but I thought she did a credible and restrained performance. I feel like she probably did a lot of observation. I really thought she was effective, and I never once thought it was, overly done or anything. What'd you guys think?
Overall, are you talking just about her performance?
Yeah, her performance as a person with CP.
I thought that she did okay. I mean, it was a little... It did come across... Okay, we are looking at it from a sensibility of 2021, to whereas this was... What year? 1980?
80, yeah, 1980.
Yeah, 1980. And so obviously their take on it is going to be a little bit more exaggerated and almost, and forgive me for using the word cliche of that. But I will say, especially for the time, I thought they did a very good job. And one of the things I absolutely loved was that they had other cast members, the other children, who were experiencing actual disabilities.
Yeah.
And that was just phenomenal to put into a film of that time and not, have it all be acting and everything. Although I will say that one kid who basically just sat in a wheelchair and stared into space through the entire movie, and they just kept rolling him into the scene, he got a really cushy acting job. Hey, I'm going to be in a feature film and I'm going to get paid lots of money. What do? I sit in a wheelchair and stare into space.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to say that this is probably the first time. I mean, I was, just in elementary school when I saw it, but I have watched it a couple of times recently. This is some of my first impressions of differently abled people because, I led a sheltered life. I grew up in the haystack and I had a cow pasture across the street from my school. And we didn't even have a single person of color in my graduating class. So, I thought they did well to represent that. Now, it should be noted that while this film was released in 1980, since it was based upon a book of the life of the therapist Lena Canada, some of the details suggest that this is actually set sometime in the 60s because the girl, Karen, was born in 49 in the monologue that's introduced in the trailer. And then she writes to Elvis after Lena meets her because she notices that she's taking an interest in music, and Elvis seems to bring something special up in her. She starts dancing in her chair as much as she can. And of course, the height of Elvis's career was in the 60s. Now, this again is based on a true story, and there are actual accounts that in these times, musicians like Elvis, were able to more easily interact with their fans because, of course, we didn't have the days of the Beatles and the restraining orders and stockade fences and, people being on Instagram like we do today. And at one point, Elvis reached out to the young girl and said, "I'm sorry you were having such a hard time reaching me," because clearly he could tell she's handwriting these letters. She was experiencing some difficulty in writing to him. He gave her apparently a personal address for her to bypass the line of fans.
And so I thought it was, what I was actually expecting with that was that they started having the one actor we just talked about. What was his name?
John Amos?
The black actor. Yes. So he ended up being in those scenes every time a letter or package seemed to arrive. And so there was a point where I was like, okay, it's going to come out that he's the one that's buying all the stuff and he's sending it to her and he's writing her the letters. And I was expecting something like that to happen by the setup. So when it turned out that it really was supposed to be Elvis doing that, I was a little surprised.
Huh. That's interesting. I wasn't that clever one. I was thinking, I seriously thought, I bet you this is going to climax with Elvis visiting the school. That's what I really thought.
This was the original story was set in Sweden, which is where Lena Canada was actually living at the time. And when they filmed this movie, it was filmed on location in, I believe it was in Canada, but it was supposed to suggest somewhere like Montana. But
I want to mention Matt, that in the chat room, Aunt Tudor thought exactly what you thought.
Oh,
yeah. So
good. I'm glad I wasn't alone.
Yeah, you weren't the other way. Also, Aunt Tudor posted a photo of John Amos, and one of the fun facts about John Amos, he was in one of the original, long time ago, McDonald's commercial where he was singing "You Deserve a Break Today." At McDonald's, they had this whole sing dance number. It was one of their really old commercials, and he was on one of my favorite podcasts, Gilbert Gottfried's Amazing Colossal Podcast, and that show is devoted to old Hollywood, old TV, and old movies. And John Amos was a guest, and he said, and he sang it. He remembered all of the lyrics. Anyways, yeah, that's how I thought the movie was going to end.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, did you ever feel that the movie adequately explained why she became so obsessed, for lack of a better word, with Karen? And I say obsessed because even in the preview, it's like, I've got to get through to Karen. And she just like every waking moment was, Karen and sometimes, and obviously, when you're in those situations, you have a favorite or you have somebody that you're really working with or anything. But I never understood exactly what the connection was that made her single out why she was so passionate about helping Karen.
All I can say is, and I agree that this was very underscored, is that there's several scenes where she's observing Karen, and Karen's just by herself, not engaging anyone. And we see her looking at her. And then we see her trying to engage with her in several scenes. And I think that's where when it's not working, she becomes anxious about it. Like, I'm not reaching her. She says, why can't I reach Karen? She gets very emotionally attached. But I think it's just because most of the scenes, aside from the one kid who stares into space, the characters with CP are living. They're engaging with their environment and the people in it. And I think she just tuned into this one loner and wanted to help her. That's all I got from it. And I agree, it's really not spelled out precisely.
Now, I haven't read the book, and apparently the book by Lena Canada is out of print possibly and difficult to find. But on social media, I got a comment when I posted about us watching Touched by Love. And the comment was by Liam, often known as Crayons in My Umbrella on Auntie Vera's show. But he mentioned that somewhere in his collection, he has a copy of that book. Now, I have to wonder if maybe this is one of those moments where a book is adapted to film that we lose a character moment. Like maybe she had a sister.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, or, maybe it's just a reflection that as a woman, maybe she had a marriage that fell apart or she couldn't have children. And that's what fueled her interest in becoming a therapist to work with special needs.
I'll add this too. At the very beginning, she says to her coworker / roommate, "This is my first job." So she's very, very young. It's her first job. And, I got the sense from the script and that she really didn't know what to do with her life. And she really didn't have a huge, big philosophical reason for being there. It was a job, and she showed up. And so, anyways, that's just as far as her motivation goes. I get the feeling like these are brand new experiences for her. She's very young, and
I mean, even from the first moment she arrived and she was being led to her room to put stuff away, and she met the kids and walked through, there was a moment when she looked at Karen sitting in the wheelchair by herself, and there was this lingering, and I just wondered if there was something that I missed.
Yeah.
No,
I don't think so.
I think that to some extent it speaks to how some stories are what we call timeless, where you can watch it now and it means the same thing. With some of the language that was in play on this, as I gave a disclaimer in the beginning there, that the narration was a little bit strongly worded, that parents would be disappointed if their child was born in this way. When Lena first arrives at Brown House and she's being helped onto the grounds, the man who meets her basically recites her resume, and he says college dropout. Now, of course, in today's reality, mentioning that's just an insult. Saying that basically you have no motivation in life. What did you take this job for? But back to our discussion on her, motivation there. that could be the reason why she chose to come to Brown House, is because maybe she lost sight of her goal with whatever she was studying, and maybe this is going to be, her year that she took off from college before she found herself.
But yeah, but also it is very telling about the way that things have changed, because now you can't get a job like that unless you have practically a master's, to be a live-in therapist or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You have to
special trained and
accredited.
they're just like, yeah, we need whoever.
I'm reminded of the scene with Michael Leonard, and she just tosses off a casual comment, and that's why you're perfectly qualified for this job. And it's just because she said something like, I like helping people. and she definitely was being trained on the go, if there was any training at all. Also, I have to say that damn opening scene with the doctor who comes to help her with her luggage. Was anyone else bothered by his he was out of breath and he was sniffling, and it was just like, good Lord. What a horrible.
It was going to be the love interest, but it turned out to be Karen.
I mean, he was a 2-pack-a-day smoker. What do you want?
I don't know, but it was hideous. Speaking of that, this was really a completely unremarkable movie as far as the direction went. I mean, it serviced everything, but there was nothing fancy here. And that may have been the director's style, but it probably was more that this was clearly not a high budget affair. And they probably had to shoot this thing just about as fast as they could. But anyways, that's one of the reasons why it just feels to hell like a made-for-TV movie.
It really does. Yeah.
And a keener eye for detail would have picked up on some of the things, because if this was supposed to be an adaptation of the book and it was supposed to be set in the 60s based upon Karen being a pen pal with Elvis, you wouldn't see all those loud 80s colors that you saw in all the classroom settings.
Yes, you're correct.
But, I suppose, although I don't know, I might say, in a classroom setting, you would probably have a lot of primary colors. I don't really remember the sets being loud, but okay.
Well, like with the scenes with Dr. Bell when she goes in to visit her, that just looked like romper room to me.
Yeah. Well, it kind of was. I mean, I remember the things they were punching, the balloons, and
it just reminded me of all the things that I saw in my youth, and I lived in the 80s, so it just felt like if this is supposed to be from an earlier time, it shouldn't be the same color schemes in my own classroom.
I wasn't born yet.
Matt. That's the third time.
I just want to give a moment of personal reflection on this because, of course, again, this was one of my sister's favorite films, and it helped her through a hard time because she survived cancer at the age of 16. And I have many moments from my early youth that I associate with this film because, just like in the movie, the therapist, Lena, tries to engage Karen. She does things involving sensations. She takes her out in her wheelchair off the grounds, and they go to basically a picnic setting right there by the river. And so she's out in the outdoors in the wilderness with the fresh air, and Lena starts telling her about flights of fantasy. She's making up stories about squirrels and mice, and she's playing with tree stumps, which, unless you've got a healthy imagination, they're just decaying nature. But that fueled my imagination as a child, and for several years when I was in middle school, I used to play with tree stumps and try to make them out to be little castles like in the movie.
Okay, I did not mean to laugh because that's very sentimental. Just when you said I used to play with tree stumps,
I totally get it. When I was young, I used to play with wood as well.
Jesus.
And that's why you
Oh
have
my
an
God.
autographed copy of Conrad Bain's photo, right?
Ooh.
Anyways, I thought the visuals for that were, I mean, that street tree stump, the way it was decaying, looked like a little fairy city or something.
It did.
So I get what you're saying, DJ.
I was scared when she would grab her wheelchair and start racing along, and she's holding on for dear life. I was just expecting that wheelchair to dump her out any moment.
I was taken aback by that too. It was so abrupt and like, holy cow, Jesus.
I wonder if there's outtakes where she did drive.
I don't know. DJ, I just wanted to ask you, did you guys have a VHS copy of it, or like it seems like you watched it a lot of times? Did you have a copy of it or what?
We actually taped it off of television when NBC aired it.
Okay.
But I would say, I think probably one of my favorite moments in Touched by Love is when she has that first breakthrough, because she's been warned not to spend too much time with Karen because she's supposed to evenly divide her time with every of the kids there. And she's, in a moment of desperation, and she's breaking down, and she cries in front of Karen. And that's when Karen actually looks up to her, and she comes out of her shell, because everybody has been told that Karen has given up on herself. And that's when the connection is made. That's when the spark is started, because then suddenly Karen is interacting with the outside world, and she doesn't want Lena to be sad.
Mm-hmm. What did you guys think of how they did the ending? I thought, boy, you're really taking a chance showing the death scene, having Lena come upon Karen shortly after she passed, and I thought, oh God, this is going to be, and I thought, I thought they did an okay job. It was fairly restrained. I mean, it's not like she went into hysterics. And it was affecting to me. What you guys think?
I was like, oh, it's been a wonderful day. It's Christmas and everybody's happy. And she got a big package from Elvis and she just had a wonderful day. And now she's dead. And I guess I had not expected, I actually did not expect that ending. And
I figured this would happen off screen.
Yeah, I was a little, I mean, it was fine, and I think they did it well, and I think it was a fitting, it fit in the story. But I guess I just thought that they would, be all Busby Berkeley and be like, and Karen is safe and she'll live for peace.
I actually thought I actually thought that it would end and then credits would roll and it would just say in the credits, Karen went on to live for a few more years and died in 1980.
I think that's what I thought too. Yeah. But I thought they did it tastefully. I didn't, yeah.
I mean, having seen this shortly after it was new, I've got the convenience of comparing then and now. And as an adult watching it, I think they did a fair job of presenting that reality. I think perhaps maybe the purpose of them not fading out and doing credits, because I would think that would be more typical of like an 80s after school special type of story where, oh, we're so sad because Karen, Lena was happy for the months that she worked at Brown House, but after Karen died, she just couldn't continue and she went back to school or whatever. But I think that the purpose was to, help you experience this, because until things like Touched by Love were made. In fact, I'll go a bit further, and if you remember going into the 90s, we had possibly the first TV show with a special needs person, life goes on. And, until things like that were made, people who lived in much more, I guess you might call it, ordinary lives where, people are sheltered and censored from things like this, where, we still live in a world where people who have special needs, individuals and their family will wait until the later hours of the day to take them shopping at night because they don't want to run into people who are going to point and stare. But the purpose of showing her death was to help people realize that folks like Lena who take a chance, that's like their everyday life. People who work in nursing homes, if you care and you get to know the people that you're taking care of, you just have, you have to become a strong person, because after a time, that's just how you move on.
In the chat room, Aunt Tudor wonders if any of the other kids were used again in roles. That could very well possibly be. In the credits, at the end, it says that these kids all came from the same school, and I want to say Canada because this was filmed in Canada. They came from. They just hired, cast, I guess would be a better word, these kids, and they were all from the same school. And it's quite possible, but I don't know. I don't know if they were reused again.
Okay, well, we are winding down the discussion of our film tonight, so we're going to enter into a segment that we like to call our snack tray. And this is anything else that you might enjoy if you liked Touched by Love. Now, it also should be noted that Touched by Love has never seen a official home video release. There are many different sources where you could possibly find a copy of this to watch. I like to use a site, and this is not a paid endorsement, called justwatch.com. You just tell it what services that you have access to, and it'll tell you if you can find it. I also happen to find a copy of this through an Elvis fan club of a sort. So,
all right. And folks, if you do want to see a real easy ways, there's a copy, not a great copy, but it's a copy on YouTube.
So I'll go first. I'm going to use a recommendation made by a site called Best Similar. And it's just like it sounds, Best Similar. This is a film from 1963, and it stars Judy Garland and Burt Lancaster, called A Child is Waiting. The story is psychologist Dr. Matthew Clark is the head of Crawthorne State Training Institute. It's one of the first boarding schools for developmentally challenged children. And Dr. Clark is a sympathetic but demanding sort of teacher, and his approach of tough love is controversial for then. So 1963, A Child is Waiting.
Not familiar with that one, but I love Burt Lancaster. The film this reminded me of is an old favorite of mine, a black and white movie made in 1948. It's called Johnny Belinda, and it was with a young Jane Wyman, and Agnes Moorehead is in it.
Oh,
and it's about a doctor who volunteers to tutor, just very much like Touched by Love, but in this case, not a person with CP, but a deaf-mute woman. And good movie. Johnny Belinda from 1948. Matt, what did this remind you of?
From the very beginning, it reminded me of The Miracle Worker. The same type of thing, a teacher that just won't give up. And in The Miracle Worker, devoted teacher Anne Sullivan leads the deaf and blind Helen Keller into the light of learnedness, basically teaches her to a way to communicate, because her very well-to-do family just ignores her and lets her do whatever she wants. And so she's runs wild and she's a ruffian. And so, but you know, the version that I was thinking of was not the original Patty Duke playing the child, but Melissa Gilbert playing the child. So
okay.
The 1997, or no, excuse me, 1979 version. And very good. And I just loved it when she hauled off and slapped her.
There's another, okay, so just to back up really quickly, this story started as a stage play, and Patty Duke was in the stage play. And anyways, another really affecting version of it, besides the remake they did on TV with Melissa Gilbert, is sometime in the late 50s. No, it can't have been that soon. That was before the damn play. Sometime in the late
62.
Yeah, there was a live TV version of it. That's what I wanted to say.
Oh,
yeah, and that was good. So, anyways.
Okay, well, before we go ahead and take a look at what's coming down the pike, because we are out here in the lobby where we kind of start every show. It's kind of like the Beverly Hillbillies, where we go to the front door and wave you out. But we had a fun visit with our boy from the Golden Coast there, Mr. Author and man of many hats, Matt Burlingame. Matt, could you let the listeners know where we can find you if we really need to follow you, and maybe don't climb the fence this time, people?
Oh, well, yeah, you know, whatever. Climb the fence for me. I can be found at multiple places, including the Chubbs Gone Wild podcast at chubbsgonewild.com, the Big Gay Sex Show podcast over at biggaysexshow.com, and of course you can find my books, writings, and other fun projects over at justkisstheguy.com. And Toppy, that was 1957.
Oh, all right. Hold up them there covers. You had like a bundle. Hold them there covers up.
Oh, my collection of work.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, my goodies, my babies.
And for those of you watching us on YouTube, there is a link at matinee-minutia.com. You can see the published works of Mr. Matt there, spread out so much like Thanksgiving dinner. And of course, if you have somebody in your family or you have a loved one who likes to read, Mr. Matt has the perfect gift to put under your tree.
One for everyone.
There you go.
Okay, well, Toppy, here at the Marionette, we've had many things here under our roof, including a magician. Could you?
I've heard tell.
Hand me that bag of coins there, sir.
All right. Here we go.
Whoa, wait. The coins first.
Coins first. Oh, a capsule.
Okay. By the director of Crocodile Dundee. To get to know his girlfriend's son, a working class good guy volunteers to pick him up from his prep school, only to learn that he isn't the nicest young man. 1991 comedy adventure starring Married with Children, Ed O'Neill, and introducing Ethan Embry, most notable for being Liv Tyler's love interest in Empire Records. A holiday adventure the family can enjoy in the spirit of planes, trains, and automobiles. Next time on Matinee Minutia, which will be Friday, December 3rd. Dutch.
Very well.
I like those shoes.
Oh, Aunt Tudor says he's been reading some of your books.
Yeah.
Hey, how about that?
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hey, so
well, let's thank
look over
the
that-
people in the chat room.
Yes, please. Look over the balcony there, Toppy, and tell us who was in there tonight.
Joining us live in the chat room, folks, besides being a podcast, we are streaming live every first and third Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we've got some folks here. We've got a Discord chat room. People can talk to each other and talk to us, and we can see you, and we can chat with you, and you can chat with us. Anyways, thanks for being here. Aunt Tudor. And we've got your hubby, Billy Starsage is here. We have Maren Kurtz. Nice to see you again, Maren. And I saw Cronehaven pop in. I bet she's still listening. And then that's it. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so in the ways of the old time radio days, Toppy, could you say goodnight, Gracie?
Good night, Gracie.
Thank you for listening to Matinee Minutia.
Our show streams live on the first and third Friday of the month.
Go to univazpods.net, click the tower for streaming audio. Enter Discord for our chat room.
You can find our show anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Find us on Twitter at Matinee Minutia.
Find our group on Facebook.
Or visit our webpage at matineeminutia.com.
Have an idea for a show? Or why not let us know how we're doing?
Email us at matineeminutia@gmail.com.
This has been an Ollybug production.
I have a voice.
I have a voice.
You have a voice.
You have a voice.
We have a voice.
We have a voice.
Unique voices and